Before every assassination, this hitman must roll a die. The number determines how many shots he'll need to kill his target. This time, the die landed on 4. He loaded a round into the chamber, then aimed his rifle at an empty street. Before the target even appeared, he pulled the trigger. Yet somehow, the bullet hit its mark. For the second shot, Lupin threw himself in front of his partner and took the bullet. But the assassin had no intention of firing the third shot right away. He wanted his prey to suffer. What he didn't know was that his target this time was also a legendary marksman. The moment Jigen saw the bullet, he recognized who the assassin was. It was the same bullet used in the assassination of someone Jigen had once sworn to protect. Realizing that the killer was now coming after him as well, Jigen decided to make the first move. However, when he and Lupin arrived at the assassin's hideout, they were both shocked. The yard was filled with countless gravestones. There was even a gravestone prepared in advance for Jigen. That only strengthened Jigen's determination for revenge. But when the two entered the house, they suddenly heard Fujiko crying for help. It turned out that Fujiko had failed to steal a treasure and had been captured by the assassin. At that exact moment, the killer appeared behind them. But inside such a confined space, Jigen had the clear advantage. After all, his opponent was a sniper. Yet Oki remained completely calm. The moment Jigen reached for his revolver, Oki moved even faster. In an instant, he shot the gun right out of Jigen's hand. It turned out that Oki's bullets had been specially modified. The only reason he hadn't killed Jigen immediately was because he still had one final shot left. Realizing the situation had turned bad, Lupin and Jigen fled, and Oki began his hunt. Soon, the two men reached the harbor and hid behind shipping containers. Meanwhile, Oki set up his sniper rifle from a high vantage point. The moment either of them showed themselves, they would die. Their only chance was to reach the road. On the opposite side, Lupin came up with a plan. When he counted to 3, they would both run at the same time, forcing Oki to split his attention. But Lupin had underestimated just how terrifying Oki really was. He could only watch helplessly as his best friend was killed right in front of him. Determined to avenge Jigen, Lupin made his decision. Yet instead of taking action, he calmly sat down and drank a cup of coffee. Meanwhile, Oki had already positioned himself on a rooftop. He rolled the die once again. This time, the number was 1. He raised his rifle and aimed at Lupin. After calculating the wind, he pulled the trigger without hesitation. The bullet shot forward like a bolt of lightning, but this time, it missed. Instead, a bullet pierced Oki's own chest. He immediately turned around. Standing behind him was none other than Jigen, the man who was supposed to be dead. Then Jigen fired again, hitting Oki directly in the knee. Oki was completely stunned. He had killed Jigen himself. How could he still be alive? Before Oki could react, Lupin's voice suddenly came through his earpiece. Only then did Oki realize he had been tricked. Back when Jigen was first shot, Lupin had already sensed that something wasn't right. Oki had fired into an empty street. Yet somehow, the bullet had hit its target perfectly. Lupin looked around and noticed that the entire city was covered with surveillance cameras. That's when he figured it out. Oki had modified his right eye and connected his optic nerve to the city's surveillance network. That way, no matter where his target hid, he could always see them. So on the day Oki attempted to kill Jigen, Lupin hacked the surveillance system. He delayed the video feed that Oki was seeing by half a second. As a result, the bullet had never actually hit Jigen. Oki's greatest weakness was his own overconfidence, and he had walked straight into Lupin's trap. After learning the truth, Oki knew he had lost. He lowered his weapon and asked Jigen to end it with a single shot. But Jigen wanted to defeat his opponent fairly and reclaim the honor that had been taken from him. Oki understood. He loaded his final bullet into the chamber. The real duel was about to begin. The moment the wind stopped, both men fired at the exact same time. But Jigen was still 0.01 seconds slower. Yet in the very next second, Oki's arm was blown apart. It turned out that, although Oki's bullets had been specially modified, their power had been greatly reduced. The instant the two bullets collided, Oki's round was knocked off course. The assassin had finally been defeated.